to our Talks at Google event with Kelly LeVeque. This is the second one she's done with us. Her second book is out, Body Love Every Day. So we are celebrating that, learning a bit more about kind of the evolution of Kelly's philosophy. So if you don't already know about Kelly, she is a holistic nutritionist and a celebrity health coach. And I think there's a lot of people in this space right now, but what really sets Kelly apart in my mind is her scientific approach to everything. So Kelly has a long history with her career in cancer and genetics before she got into this space. And that has really given her a mindset to study the science behind nutrition and apply that in really logical, easy, non-judgmental ways. So the foundation that Kelly wrote about in her first book, Body Love, was about the Fab Four, which is all about blood sugar balance. So Kelly, do you want to just share a little bit about kind of where that foundation came from and really what it is?
Sure. So hi, thanks for having me. I didn't realize they were going to blow up my book and three of us would be in the exact same outfit today, but here we are. The Fab Four is basically a short checklist. It's that positive checklist of what you should have on your plate to support blood sugar balance. I'm trying to change the paradigm. It seems like in health and nutrition, it's a lot about removing things. And I really wanted to change that, especially with my clients. I wanted them to get up from wherever they were eating, whether they were out at a restaurant or making food at home, and feel really good about what they were eating. And so the Fab Four includes protein, fat, fiber, and greens. So science dictates that we need essential amino acids from protein, we need essential fatty acids from fats, and then the fiber and greens piece really comes down to feeding your gut microbiome, feeling full, and the mechanisms that really regulate hunger hormones. And then the greens piece is really just about getting phytochemicals on your plate. Really those things that, like antioxidants that fight oxidative stress. So science doesn't dictate that you absolutely need fiber and greens, but when it comes to really getting the nutrition density that you need from your food and elongating your blood sugar curve and regulating hunger hormones, that little checklist is really easy to look at your plate and say, okay, where's my protein? Where's my fat? Is there some fiber on there? Maybe some non-starchy vegetables, leafy greens, something deep in color, and then you're good to go. So that it just really allowed for my clients and myself to have a better relationship with food, but it's science-backed without you even needing to understand how it works. It works.
And I love that it's not just like omission based of like, what are we cutting out? But it's like, yep, can I like go through my checklist with my meals? And like the result of that, I think you say, is like, you're just going to feel balanced and full and happy and like not hangry 2 hours later. So I think that's so neat that you have developed this and it's really easy and just a non-judgmental approach, which I think is great. So you've taken it a step further with Body Love Every Day, your new book, which just came out a couple months ago. And you've given plans for different types of lifestyles. And you've segmented into 4 different groups that you can kind of like plug and play what works for you. So how did you come like to evolve it in this way? Why do you think it's important to adjust it for different lifestyles?
Yeah. So Body Love Every Day is really the to answer all the questions I got from Body Love. So I had questions like, well, how do I live the Fab Four lifestyle if I'm 100% plant-based? Or what if I'm constantly on the go and I'm flying for work and I'm at an airport every other day? Or what happens if I really have a deadline that I want to meet or goal body composition change that I need to make, whether it's like a wedding or a red carpet? So I answered all those questions in a fun way by building 4 archetypes in the second book. So the first archetype is Girl on the Go. And these are meals that are less than 30 minutes using the Fab Four. And you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner in every single archetype. You guys have the book, so you can see that. But in Girl on the Go, I talk about things like how to pick a protein bar, right? Because new protein bars come out all the time, and there might be one with limited ingredients, and then one that's keto, and then one that's, whole grains, and it's hard to make those choices. So I give people just easy tips on how to do that. The second archetype is Red Carpet Ready, and that answers the questions of how I worked with clients to get ready for roles and how I use specific tools to help them get where they want to go without them feeling deprived. The domestic goddess is absolute goals for me. I mean, I picture people who have chickens in their backyard and a full, I garden. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Brentwood, so I don't have that yet. Herb garden is all I've got going. But it's more like learning how to make your own fermented veggies and coconut yogurt, things like that. And yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, and the plant-based devotee chapter is really just like, if you're plant-based, what are your protein sources and how can you live the Fab 4 lifestyle? Because you absolutely can. That's the beauty of the Fab 4. It's light structure, and you don't have to be on a strict diet. You can just find the positive on your plate.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of us are in the life phase of on the go, especially here. So what are some of the tips that you share in that section, or just for people like going to a lot of work events, a lot of social events, lots of work travel, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I recommend in the book. It's in the same vein of like store hungry, is not to be starving when you arrive at work events, especially if you don't know what's on the menu. So sometimes for those days, I may recommend having a breakfast, say, of a veggie scramble or eggs, and then having, a nice big salad for lunch, but using something like the Fab 4 smoothie as a tool where you can drink something decadent. It might taste like chocolate almond butter and be full of spinach. You don't really taste that part. You feel full and calm, you've satisfied that sweet tooth, and then you're going into that event actually biologically full. So research suggests that it takes about 20 grams of protein to really regulate hunger hormones. You have over 8 hunger hormones in your body, and I talk about those in my first book, and mechanisms that regulate those hunger hormones are different. So if someone were just to, say, have a green juice, you're not stretching your stomach. So ghrelin, for example, is still going to be screaming at you to eat, and you're not getting any protein. So there are about 4 other hunger hormones that aren't regulated by that snack or meal. And so I explain in the first book all about those hunger hormones, but in this book, it's the applicable tools of, well, how can you make sure you arrive alive? And what does that mean? Like feeling full, calm, and balanced before having a buffet of fried things and desserts is probably a good way to deal with it.
Yeah, totally. Switching gears a little bit, something that's getting a lot of buzz right now is the intuitive eating trend or lifestyle. So I wonder how you see that movement, and kind of if you think there is an intersection between like the light structure that you talk about and intuitive eating.
Yeah, I think intuitive eating is it's a beautiful eating lifestyle. I think it's hard if your blood sugar is erratic and hormones are imbalanced. So what the Fab 4 offers people is a light structure to help you balance your blood sugar so that you aren't crashing into your next meal. So for example, I might say, I intuitively feel like eating a cookie. I probably always feel like eating a cookie. So let's say I felt like having a cookie and I had one. What happens is my blood sugar spikes for about 90 minutes. It's mostly a acellular carbohydrate, meaning it's a flour-based carbohydrate. It's going to break down faster than a cellular carbohydrate, which may be like a whole grain rice or potato. So that's going to break down very quickly. It also contains sugar, like the chocolate chips and the sugar that whatever that cookie's using. So that's a pretty fast spike on that blood sugar roller coaster. About the 90-minute mark, after insulin's been released, that sugar is being stored in your body, in your liver, in your muscles. It's leaving your bloodstream, and your blood sugar is crashing. And that can make people, the height and speed of your spike can make you feel energized, and it's almost like a sugar high if you ever went to a sleepover as a kid. And that crash can actually increase anxiety, increase cravings, and make us really want more of that. So it's really a slippery slope if you're intuitively eating acellular carbohydrates, because it's about every 90 minutes that you're crashing, and at the 3-hour mark when your blood sugar is probably getting to that low place, you're going to intuitively want more of the same. So my goal is always to teach people how to come down off of something like that and re-regulate and balance blood sugar so that they don't have to deal with those type of cravings. It's not that we're never going to have a cookie again. It's not that we're never going to celebrate a birthday or have a glass of rosé. It's that you start to understand the way your foods choices affect you, and then just make a conscious decision that, oh, this might put me on a little bit of a roller coaster. How can I balance back out with a little protein and fat at my next meal? And then try again, or not try again, but move on. It's just constantly like, what am I going to do at my next meal? Not starting over.
And do you feel like the longer that people are like living the Fab 4 lifestyle, the more intuitive their choices become, but they become those balanced ones?
Yeah, it's pretty quick and easy because of the flexibility. I feel like I'm the kind of person that likes to go on date night with my husband. I have girlfriends that I've had forever since soccer and high school and all that. I want to be able to celebrate life with them, and I don't want to feel restricted to specific meals, like only eating at Air One or only eating at home. And here in LA, it's prevalent that there are a lot of food rules. There's a lot of orthorexia, and it's very unfortunate. But there's just a lot of noise in the nutrition space, and I'm trying to break it down in a very simple way, because consistency will always outpace any fad diet that you're doing. We can obviously get really fast results if I need to for a role, but that's not a sustainable lifestyle, and that's not what the majority of my clients do. I mean, they're with me for the long run because they can live this for the long run, on vacation, with their friends, going out, and at home.
Yeah. Speaking of the health mecca here in LA, I've heard you speak to a lot of the like silver bullet trends like keto or intermittent fasting as being tools. Why do you think it's important to have that approach to those types of things?
Well, first of all, they are tools. They can be effective. They can enrich your life. They can help you hit your goals, but they aren't sustainable over the long run, in my opinion. And we use them as tools specifically for goals or as additions to your life. I like to think about exercise, meditation, maybe a matcha latte, a bulletproof coffee, even a Fab4 smoothie, or using like ketogenic style protein bars as a tool to support your life. But it's hard to picture myself never having a piece of sushi again, or living in such a restrictive way. But they can be really effective. I used the ketogenic diet back in 2014. I wrote an article about it for Birdie, which is a blog here in Los Angeles, and I was ridiculed. Like, people were like, how could you ever talk about people eating this way? And I'm like, well, it's in PubMed research, and it's being used exclusively for children who don't receive with epilepsy, who are having a hard time controlling their seizures with medication. Food and a ketogenic diet is phenomenal at doing that, which is really powerful. So we know that a lot of these trends are based in science, but then they've just blown up and become a Pinterest diet that seems to be a quick fix. But when it's based in science, it can be really supportive. So, I mean, I love that keto is out because it's low sugar. And one of the number one problems we have in the United States and in the world is prediabetes, elevated inflammation levels. And when you look at it, it's diabetes, heart disease, Alzheimer's. All of these things are linked to elevated blood sugar and inflammation. And that's because the majority of our food supply and everything that's processed is full of acellular carbohydrates and sugar, which really dysregulates our own blood sugar. So I like that companies are coming out with cool, raw Snickers bar, keto style, whatever, because that's giving my clients the opportunity to have a bite of something without this major spike and crash. So all these things aren't bad. You can think of them as a way for us to have our processed food companies come out with better options. Always that Whole Foods would be the best, but you can't always live that way. So,
yeah, love that. One thing you really are against, I think, is like vilifying any type of food group. So you give us tools, but you're not super anti any one thing. So something you've talked a bit about is like carbohydrate density. And that was something I'd never heard from anyone. So can you just explain a bit about what that is and like why it's interesting to know?
I think it's super interesting if you guys have heard of net carbohydrates. Net carbohydrates is telling you look at a nutrition fact and you look at the total carbohydrates and then the amount of fiber. So let's say that something has 20 grams of total carbohydrates and 5 grams of fiber. Well, fiber doesn't break down to blood sugar. So that's either going to feed your gut microbiome or move things through. And that would depend if it's soluble or insoluble, but that's not the point. So the net carbohydrates there would be 15, right? But you want to look at that over the serving size. So you divide 15 by the number of grams in that serving, and that'll tell you a percentage. And that percentage is what is the percent of carbohydrates in this serving? And it's a really interesting thing to look at, because I think when people see gluten-free, dairy-free, keto, paleo, like name a label on something that's going to make you think it's healthy, that can be deceiving, and it can make us think, oh, this is a great option. A good thing to think about would be like the garbanzo bean and lentil style pastas. We buy those as our family buys those, and my son, who's 16 months old, if we were making pasta, he'll eat that. But you want to understand that it's not very much different than whole wheat pasta when it comes to the effect it's having on your blood sugar. It's being sold to you as a high fiber food. It's being sold to you as this amazing checklist, gluten-free, dairy-free, high fiber, all of the buzzwords, and you think, oh my gosh, it's 10 times healthier. But when you actually look at the carbohydrate density, it's above 45%. And things in nature, like a sweet potato, is only 17%. And so where we start to vilify foods, we need to compare them apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So understanding how carbohydrate density works and the amount of carbohydrates per serving is a great way to just understand what's going to happen to your blood sugar. And then you can decide, okay, one, do I love this? Do I want to enjoy it? If that answer is yes, great. If it is something that's going to elevate your blood sugar, maybe how can you slow down the digestion of that food? Anytime you add fat or protein to a meal, you're slowing and elongating your blood sugar curve. It actually can blunt the spike. So if you were to pair it with a cashew Alfredo or avocado or something like that, that's going to help you elongate your blood sugar curve. And then if it is just like, hey, I'm going to enjoy this pasta and ride that roller coaster because let's have fun, how are you going to rebalance after that? And that's all I like to coach people on, because our bodies are so amazing. If you've ever seen the Body Worlds exhibit or anything like that, we aren't meant to be broken. Our natural set point is health, and we're good at coming back to that if we give ourselves the opportunity to do it. So carbohydrates and acellular carbohydrates and fun foods are never off the menu, but I don't require, but I suggest to my clients and I coach my clients to enjoy something and then allow your body to come back into balance for a few days or a few meals before we challenge it again.
So a lot of us are pretty health conscious here, especially
LA and Google. Hi guys.
California. How do we promote healthy habits among like family members, older parents, like people who are not so interested in this, but we care about their longevity, we care about their health, and like really want to promote that?
Yes, it's something that I deal with all the time. I grew up in Orange County. I was a Costco kid, bagel bites, taquitos, things of that nature. And I'm constantly looking for swaps for my family. So whether that's, my mom's Smoky Links that she buys in bulk at Costco still, I am looking for, like Little Fork is a great example. It's a regenerative farm. It's pasture-raised animals. It's a really healthy protein. And I'm meeting her where she's at, and I'm swapping out things like that. She has an orange juice kick, and that's something that we all thought growing up was really healthy for you. It's just as much sugar, if not more, than a can of red Coca-Cola. So it's important to know what we're doing, and so it's just making those swaps. I also tend to stock my family fridge when I head down to Orange County. It's something that I do. I will offer to help and make meals with my parents. It's really just helping to educate them, but giving them options without ridiculing their decisions. I think that's what we all need and what we all want, is not to feel bad about the choices we're making, but for someone to feel so passionate to teach us and inspire us. And if you come from a place of love and really just trying to elevate their choices, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, helping them where they're at, keeping them there. So from your research, I know you love diving into all the scientific studies. Like, are there different things that you see kind of coming down the pipeline right now that's new emerging research that you really are hoping hits the mainstream a bit more?
Yeah. So I launched my podcast this year, and I'm interviewing someone named Dr. Leonardo Trezonde, and he is out of NYU. He's a pediatrician, and that podcast will drop, but it's talking about endocrine disrupting chemicals and the things that really affect our hormones. So these are things like phthalates in beauty care products, certain types of plastics like BPA and BPS, nonstick, like the chemicals in Teflon and nonstick pans. All of these things have an effect. These chemicals have an effect on our body. They can be obesogens, meaning we can lose weight and quickly rebound and gain them back. They can affect fertility, hormones, sperm count, you name it. And so what I'm really excited about is this science to continue to emerge and for governing bodies to start to regulate a little bit stronger based on the research coming out. There's so many things that we can do right now to lower our body's toxic burden, and it's definitely something outside of food that we're all dealing with. And I'm really excited for this science to come out, because I know that will really create change in policy. And I think what we're all seeing now is really amazing beauty brand companies and personal care brands come out that are a lot cleaner. So if you guys don't have these apps, the EWG and Think Dirty are both apps you can download to your phone, and you can scan the products in your house, and then you'll know if they have endocrine disrupting chemicals and or known carcinogens. So I would just say the next time you run out of your lotion or your shampoo or conditioner, face wash, whatever it is, scan the back of it, see what it's ranked, see what its level is, and if it's ranked in the green, the yellow, orange, red, or on Think Dirty, they will tell you the known carcinogens and give you options to swap to. But that would be a great way to start to clean out your cabinets, especially if you're thinking about getting pregnant in the future. The number of known chemicals in umbilical cord blood is really concerning, even for people who take care of themselves. So we can all do better, know better, do better, right?
And for those of us who want to be learning this information or finding the new things that are emerging, and digging into some of the scientific studies to find those applicable nuggets, how do you recommend people go about that? And this is my last question for Kelly. So if you guys have audience questions, just be thinking after this.
Yeah. So, PubMed research is really where all the articles are housed, but we're at Google, and you guys probably have heard of Google Scholar. Google Scholar really is a phenomenal resource. And if you're looking for anything specific, you want to know about metabolic syndrome, an autoimmune disease you were diagnosed with, like Hashimoto's, what's really cool about it is Google Scholar will also pull articles that explain certain research articles. So it'll link all the citations. So not only will you get the research article, but you'll see that the other citations. And that's always a great way, if you're new to something, to look into what is this article saying, because there's a lot of breakdown on the internet. It's a beautiful place to learn, especially if you're really interested in continuing your education. So I would definitely look at that. And then a couple resources that I love and trust would be like Dr. Chris Kresser or Mark Hyman. They're doing some great work, and they break down a lot of new research really, really well. Dr. Rhonda Patrick on Twitter, she's phenomenal. But there's some really interesting people out there sharing a lot of good stuff. So, definitely follow those people.
Yeah, podcasts, websites, those kinds of things. So we'll turn now to see if anyone in the audience has questions. And great.
Hi. Thank you so much for coming. This is very informative. My question is, I feel like every day I wake up and there's something new that someone says, this is the big new thing, or even worse, this is very terrible. Yeah. For example, Hassan Minhaj has convinced me I can never take a cruise again. How do you find what works and what how do you just find a way to find what's best for you without destroying something that you don't realize you're
I always say, if my grandma would eat it, then it feels traditional, then it feels a little safe to me. All of the new things like bulletproof coffee, turmeric latte, matcha, ashwagandha, all the adaptogens, when you're thinking about adding something, I again would think of it as a tool, and then lean on resources that, like a Chris Kresser, like myself, like Dr. Mark Hyman, look for articles on the subject, and don't think of it as a quick fix. Because I will tell you, whether it's raspberry ketones or adaptogens, that's not the basis of our health. Like the basis of our health is how are you sleeping? How are you moving your body? What are you eating? And what's the relationship you have with yourself, whether that's meditation and like self-talk and your relationships with yourself and others. Like that's the foundation. Those are the key food groups in my opinion. All of these other little things aren't going to move the needle very much. So I would try not to get caught up in it and think like, is it the basics? Because if it's not part of the basics and it's just additions, then it's not that big of a deal, right?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, thanks so
Hi.
much for coming.
My pleasure.
I know you mentioned Erewhon, but what are your other favorite go-to places to eat out in LA, and what do you get? Because I think we all eat out a lot, or at least don't want to give that up.
Yes.
And it's really hard.
It is. So I like companies that offer organic produce and really pasture-raised proteins. So Bel Campo is a phenomenal option. They have a location in Santa Monica and off 3rd. I interviewed the farmer, Aunt Anya, and the person who started Bel Campo. It's 100% regenerative farm. It's phenomenal, and they have organic produce. So if you're feeling like bone broth or red meats or veggies, that's a great place to go. I think Tocaya Organica. I mean, a lot of times if they're using organic produce, they're going to tell you. So that's another great option. I love Farm Shop and Evo Trisante. I'm in Brentwood, and I'm a new mom, so I don't go very far. But those two options are great as well. I give John and Vinny's a hard time, but I actually really love their pounded chicken with an arugula salad on top. That's also a great option. But yeah, I'm looking for clean ingredients, and I would say I don't go out as much as I used to, but yes, Erewhon is our number one pick when it comes to easy to go meals. We're almost sick of it, but hopefully that gives you a few more options.
Yes, thanks. I'll probably see you at Erewhon. No.
Okay.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for coming. I have your first book.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for being here.
Sure. So we at Google have like a ton of free food and great lunches and breakfasts. There was some controversy last year about the canola, 90% canola, 10% olive oil that they were serving in all the food. And they've replaced it with rice oil. And I would just want to get your opinion about rice oil and like, what is that? And is that good for us?
Yeah. So it's not going to have the same sort of clean profile as like an olive oil or an avocado oil. It is going to need a chemical extraction, and it's going to be higher in omega-6. So it unfortunately isn't like they cleaned it up for you. They just sort of paralleled. But again, that's something where I would say, what are your options without the oil? Like, can you fill up a big salad from the salad bar and bring like maybe your own clean proteins to add on top? Or, what meals are you having here and what are you enjoying? I know that these are the perks of tech, but unfortunately, sometimes people don't realize if you see food, think about food, or smell food, it increases hunger hormones and cravings in the brain. So it's a really wonderful benefit, but it also can be really hard if you have goals or you want to eat a specific way. So I would probably I maybe wouldn't worry about it if it was like once a day, because you want to think about the majority. What are the majority of the oils that you're eating throughout the day? And if one of the things you has rice oil on it, I would tell a client it isn't the end of the world. But I would get on whatever Google chat you're using and rally the troops to get you guys using something like avocado oil or olive oil, if you can.
Thank you.
Start the petition today after my talk, and then I'll never be asked back.
Yeah. That was actually like very similar to my question. I was just curious if like you've seen our cafeteria, if you had a chance to walk through before coming down here or not.
I haven't. I spoke at Google in the Bay during my last book tour, and you guys have a lot of options, at least the one up there. I was like, wow, okay, this is
Took her to Charlie's.
puts my like college dorm cafeteria to shame. But I mean, I think it's hard if you're close by it or you're constantly there to say no. So I would think about ways to have meetings outside of the office, if you can find a spot outside, or meet not always where the food is.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience up here?
Hi, I had a quick question about kind of changing up your daily routine in terms of nutrition based on your goals, particularly for physical activity. I'm running my first marathon on Sunday. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll see how it goes. But because of all the research and stuff looking at upping carbohydrates and stuff, it's been a huge shift for me the last 2 months as I'm like increasing the mileage and things like that and making sure to like up the glycogen storage in my muscles to last beyond mile 13 and things like that. And so I guess I'm just curious how you see kind of changing your daily intake based on some of those physical goals like that, not necessarily with body composition or how I've been feeling hasn't been the best. There's been more inflammation because of that increased glycogen and because of the stress on the body. But how do you handle clients who have kind of physical fitness goals as far as a marathon or lifting weights and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I work with clients individually. So if we were to work together individually, I wish I would have gotten to know you a little bit sooner because I would have recommended a product called UCAN. UCAN is a super starch that doesn't elevate insulin. So it can be used to refuel glycogen stores, but it doesn't stop fat burning. So I think one of the problems that people don't realize is when they're running long distances and they start to add carbohydrates. So you're eating carbohydrates, your blood sugar spikes, insulin is released, insulin picks up the sugar, stores it in your muscles, and then you're able to run, right? What insulin does is it stops the breakdown of fat. So you have these enzymes like lipoprotein lipase and hormone sensitive lipase, which tell the fat cells to suck up fat and hold on to it and not burn it. Well, this becomes a problem when you run out of sugar or glycogen stores, and you would be if you're full of insulin, you can't become fat burning at that time. You're not going to start to oxidize free fatty acids. So what you're told to do when you're running is to gel or to have more sugar so that you don't hit a wall and drag through, mile 20 or something. So people are using gel and they're constantly using the fastest fuel that's in their bloodstream and available to them, where UCAN has the ability to replenish glycogen stores without creating a massive spike in insulin, which allows for people to be a little more metabolically flexible. So that's a cool product. Now, because of where you're at, I would tell if someone didn't want to use something like that, which it's just like a powdered drink. But if someone like you're coming up on your marathon now, we're sort of at the tail end, you've already trained and like fueled a specific way. But if I'm working with someone, I would say you shouldn't be carbo loading more than what you would do if you were running in, say, a Barry's boot camp or an OTF. So it would be like the 5 or 8 mile mark before we start thinking about replenishing carbohydrates and really fueling or refilling our glycogen stores. And then we were looking at either carb backloading and then morning of. So it really depends on what people are doing and how long they're training and what they're training for. But I would say stick to what you're doing now, because you're going to need it for Sunday. And best of luck.
Thanks.
I think if someone's lifting weights really heavily, like more than one time a day, more than just like an OTF or a Barry's, and maybe you're doing Olympic style lifting, then I would bring in carb backloading, where someone's having carbohydrates post-workout, where that's the time when your muscles are the most insulin sensitive, the most empty, they're ready to suck up sugar. They refuel, and then you're ready to lift again the next day. So that, or something like a fast glucose. Like I love a green juice as like a pre-workout because it's putting glucose in your bloodstream, and you can use it. A lot of times the carbohydrates that we're eating before a workout to use in a workout, we haven't even digested and made available by the time our workout rolls around. So like an all green juice is going to give you that hit of sugar that isn't super high, but gets you a little bit of something to get going. But I also really love electrolytes. There's a company called Element. It's spelled LMNT. And they're a sugar-free electrolyte. So it's just the electrolytes that your body needs. And that's great for just replenishing those post-run. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry. Tangent. Okay. I'm back.
Good. I'd never heard any of that. Love it.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
I have a lot of friends who are in the process of adapting or have already adapted a vegan lifestyle. I've tried it a few times. It's tough. I struggle after a few days, and maybe I'm not doing it correctly, most likely. Curious how you feel about animal versus plant protein, and are they really substitutable? That's word. And do you think that it's a diet or lifestyle that's really adaptable or doable by everyone?
So there's a couple of things I want to talk about with this question because it could be a full hour-long talk on its own. What's really important to me is that people understand that the way we're doing it, industrially raised animals and monocropping wheat, corn, and soy are both really horrible for the environment. The best way to raise animals and plants is in regenerative farms. Regenerative farms are farms where animals graze and plants are growing, animals defecate, they increase the nutrients in the soil because they're fertilizing that soil. When the soil is fertilized and the microbes in the soil there's a plethora of microbes, the roots of the plants actually go deeper. They go deeper, the nutrients of that plant is higher, and the ability to pull carbon from the air into the ground where it belongs is better. So the monocropping of tilling wheat, soy, and corn, and then replanting it and having completely destructed soil is not helping the environment. So when people just say, like, I'm going to go plant-based to do that, and I'm buying wheat, soy, and corn-based weird meat alternatives, that's actually not bettering the environment at all. And in the same token, like, we just need to use I'm going to be on a soapbox. I'm going to stop. We just need to use our pocketbooks. Like, we need to start buying high quality proteins. The bioavailability of proteins is different in plants and animals. That's because of anti-nutrients, things like phytic acid. So that's why they tell you to soak and sprout your nuts and seeds. I talk about it in this book. I want my plant-based devotee to feel energized. Proteins make everything, neurotransmitters, hormones, every cell membrane in your body. So it is important to have high protein stores. It is important to have high iron stores. Iron delivers all the nutrients to your cells. It's a carrier of oxygen all over your body. And so it's really important to me that if people want to be a carnivore or they want to be a vegan, that they do it responsibly. And that means taking care of themselves. I mean, for us to do good in this world, we need to feel our best. And I think about things like tryptophan. That's a really important amino acid. It makes all the serotonin and melatonin in your body. It's going to make you feel amazing. So I really want to make sure that whether you're plant-based or animal-based, that you feel your best and you have enough protein. I think what's coming with the plant-based movement is low protein. There's a lot of protein deficiency, and I see things like increased anxiety, increased depression, infertility, things that are being really affected by that. And so I really try to give answers in the plant-based devotee chapter. The Fab4 smoothie to me is actually the biggest tool for my plant-based clients. And that's probably 25% of my practice. So these women and men are able to, on average, where they're getting 20 or 30 grams of protein, which the government tells us is a deficient level. That's definitely not an optimal level for feeling your best and being able to function at a high level. So when you can have something like, pea and pumpkin seed protein, and that shake is already adding 30 grams of protein to your life. I've doubled the amount of protein you're getting in a day, and you're still just at 60 grams. Like, that's enough, but that's also going to make you feel so much better. So I think it's important for you to really think about what your body needs and what's going to make you feel the best, and educate yourself on how you can better the environment and live the life that you want to live. I think that's the most important thing that we can be doing right now. As a society, is really looking at traditional ways of growing our animals and growing our plants, because that beautiful ecosystem is what protects us and our planet.
Thanks. I think we're at time now.
Perfect.
But, yeah, those were great questions. Thank you guys all so much for coming, and thank you, Kelly, for giving us your time.